The chair recognizes the gentlelady from California, Ms. Barragan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Madam Secretary, did you testify that 90% of unaccompanied minors don't show up to court?
So I believe what has been referenced is my testimony in the last hearing.
What was the percentage you said a minute ago? Was it 90%?
I hadn't said that, but I think people were quoting me from.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, I just wanted to correct the record because there's so much false information that comes out of this administration, and this is one of those. My records, which is the Department of Justice Immigration Court, data states that 69% show up to court, and when unaccompanied minors have counsel, 95% show up to court. As somebody who's actually represented an unaccompanied minor in an immigration proceeding, I think maybe that sends a message that we should make sure unaccompanied minors have access to counsel. Your predecessor, Secretary Kelly, he committed to meeting with the Congressional Hispanic Caucus regularly. Will you commit to meeting with the Congressional Hispanic Caucus regularly like your predecessor?
Be happy to.
Great. Hopefully we can get that scheduled soon, because I know since you've been sworn in, we have not seen you come in yet. So thank you for that. Back in mid-January, my friend Senator Cory Booker had asked if you had met with any DACA recipients. At that time, you mentioned you had not. Have you met with any DACA recipients since that time?
I have not.
Great, thank you. My colleague earlier, Ms. Jackson Lee, had mentioned this recent court decision that came out this week about DACA applications. And I pulled the decision just to clarify for the record. The order says DHS must accept and process new as well as renewal DACA applications. This is in the court order. Now, that is the actual court order. The court order goes on to say that they're going to have a stay for 90 days so DHS can explain why they ended the program, because under the court, it was arbitrary and capricious. Madam Secretary, you are head of Homeland Security. Do you have a better explanation?
I'm sorry, for the court's decision?
Yeah, the court decision said
Yes. So
that you had
right,
90
so-
days
Right.
to better explain why the program ended, because what was given before was insufficient. I'm
sorry.
asking you, do you have a better explanation?
The explanation is very simple. It was an inappropriate use of executive power.
Did you have a better explanation? Because the court has already ruled that that explanation was insufficient. Do you have a better explanation?
Sitting here today, we're reviewing the court decision, as you know, that just came down, and we will be prepared to provide the court the requested information.
Okay, so you don't have one yet. Thank you very much.
I don't.
I'm
order
looking
the
forward
cases,
to
as you
seeing.
know, the Justice Department does. So I defer to the Justice Department on arguing the cases on behalf of the United States government, as we do with all cases. But we
Correct,
work
but the
with them to
Department of
provide
Homeland
information.
Security enforces them, and I think the court order is very specific that
We
they're
will comply.
expl-
We'll provide them the information requested.
Great. Madam Secretary, you are responsible for more than 240,000 employees at Department of Homeland Security, is that correct?
Around that, yes.
And many of those employees have security clearances, is that correct?
Many of them do, yes.
Okay, back in March the ranking member, Mr. Thompson, and I sent you a letter, this letter that I'm holding up here, asking you some questions about your handling of security clearance. You have not responded to that, so I'm going to go ahead and see if I can get some answers here today. Were you aware of the allegations of domestic abuse by Mr. Porter prior to his resignation in February of 2018?
Was I aware? In whatever was in the press is what I was aware of.
So you're saying as a deputy chief, as a deputy working under Mr. Kelly in the White House, that you were not aware of allegations of domestic abuse by Mr. Porter?
I was the deputy chief of policy, and so I did not review nor access clearance request records or adjudications. That was not part of my job.
Okay, so the New York Times reporting is inaccurate about this, that you as a deputy chief of staff in November, when the FBI had a detailed report that was submitted to the White House, you're saying you did not see it and were not aware of it?
I did not see any FBI report. No, I did not.
Okay. So you didn't take any action at all regarding Mr. Porter's security clearance?
I would not have. It wasn't in my job description.
What is the policy at Homeland Security now on interim security clearances?
So we look at that very carefully. We restrict access when somebody has an interim. There's very particular circumstances in which someone might be granted, but mostly it takes a long time, as you know, to go through the adjudication process. And so we reserve bringing somebody on board fully in most cases until their clearance is fully adjudicated.
Great. Can you commit to responding to this letter of March 5th in writing, please?
Yes, I can.
Great, thank you. I yield back.
General yields back. The gentleman from Virginia, Mr. Garrett's recognized.